Gideon wants you to know he's there. This past year in college, we had a ghost named Gideon living in our dorm who has followed my roommate from place to place, or so he claims. He dubbed the ghost Gideon. He would hear his name, have his bed being shaken in the middle of the night, stuff like that. He wasn't the only one to experience it. As the school year went on, Gideon began to get comfortable with all of us, and activity began to become frequent. When alone, I've heard faucets running, so I looked about and found nobody to be in the dorm apartment. I've heard knocking on my door, and when I opened it, nobody would be there. I'd hear knocking on my door, quick little raps of about 3 to 5 knocks every time I'm alone in the dorm apartment with my bedroom door closed. Every once in a while, late in the night, I'll hear a loud slap on my door or on my wall. I have a metal water bottle I keep on my windowsill, and one night it sounded as though someone was just picking it up and setting it down softly, just enough so there would be a metallic clinking on the sill, which happened to be made of concrete or something. I heard a noise as though something had fallen off of my desk. When I woke up, my chapstick was on the floor beside my bed, which had originally been standing up in the middle of my desk. I heard it drop to the floor the night before, but my windows were closed and my fan was off, so I don't know how it could have gotten there. Something handed my pillow to me. I woke up sometime in the night to find it wasn't on the bed, reached out groggily, and it was suddenly in my hand. Something had tried unlocking my roommate's door from the outside. He found little scratches from where the door meets the frame, and the catch on the door was scratched as well. I had a guest spending the night, and they saw some strange shadow moving on my ceiling. We tried to recreate the shadow, but couldn't. The shades were down, so there wasn't too much light coming in. My roommate was alone and saw somebody out of the corner of his eye walk past his room. It doesn't sound weird, but the figure was walking toward the wall that's just windows, and there's nothing there other than a couch. When he left his room to see who it was, there was nobody there, and nobody could have gone anywhere being that we were on the 5th floor. One afternoon, my other roommate, the one who brought Gideon with him, of course, saw a shadow figure walk into one of the bathrooms. One night, I experienced a loud knock on my door. I said, "Yeah," got up and opened my door. There was, of course, nobody there, and at the same time as I opened my door, my roommate across from me opened his door claiming somebody knocked on his door. He thought it was me. I thought it was him. We had our doors knocked on at the exact same time. I never felt Gideon was a bad presence, just kind of there and doing his thing. There was never anything bad that happened to any of us having him there, other than an eerie feeling being alone in the place, as though you weren't entirely alone. It attached itself to her roommate. I had a randomly assigned roommate in college who was a very sweet, religious girl. She kept to herself mostly, but she was always really kind and polite. This was the first year I didn't seem to have a BTCHY roommate, so I was excited to get along with her. About 2 nights after we get moved in, I wake up to hear someone sobbing softly outside my bedroom door. It was a really weird sound, this kind of desperate, creaky sobbing, and I was so f***ing scared at first because it sounded like the SHT you hear in horror movies, or like The Witch, if you've played Left 4 Dead. I heard someone moving around the apartment and occasionally coming back to my door, scratching on it softly, so I finally summoned the courage to peek out of my bedroom. My roommate was just walking around the apartment, crying. She was sleepwalking apparently, because her eyes were closed, but when I opened the door her head turned to look right at me. Then, she slowly went to the kitchen table, picked up a pencil, and started to scrawl this weird symbol on her door. It looked like a circle with a triangle in it. I asked her if she was okay, and she just stood there, swaying and crying, and I was basically just like, nope, and locked the door. The next morning, she was really scared and mad at me because this demon symbol had appeared on her door, and she thought I had done it to prank her. She didn't believe me when I told her she was the one who did it, but accepted my denials that I did it, and we dropped it. Several times throughout the year, I'd wake up in the middle of the night to her in the kitchen, talking to herself. Every time, she would come to scratch softly on my door, and every morning, there would be another symbol on her door. She was still convinced it was me f***ing with her. I considered filming her, but honestly I was really scared of opening the door because I watched too many scary movies about demons and SHT. Then one time, we were in our separate dorm rooms when there was a huge bang from her bathroom. There was obviously no one else in the dorm, so we were both really freaked out, but we decided to investigate. We looked everywhere and nothing had fallen down, and there were no windows or other doors to the bathroom other than the one leading to our living room. We pulled back the shower curtain, and there was a huge arc of blood on the wall. She went pale but had no explanation for this. Later that night, while I was studying in total silence, she rushed into my room and demanded to know what I had said. I asked her what she was talking about, and she said she was in the bathroom and heard me talking to her like I was, whispering something through the wall. Nope. After that, whenever she was gone for the weekend, I always heard weird noises coming from her side of the dorm suite in the middle of the night. Nope, 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 she moved out at the end of the year, and that was that, but I've always wondered what the FCK that was all about. The indescribable scream. I'm gonna preface this by saying I went to boarding school for 6 years. This boarding school was in the middle of a one-stoplight town and on a hill 800 feet up. The school used to be an old monastery. It was hundreds of years old and huge with 4 stories, including a basement where there was a boiler room and long hallways. Not all of these stories happened to myself, but the people who told me them were reliable enough to believe. Also, the school didn't want us telling stories to other people because they were afraid that it would make them not want to go to the school due to it being haunted. The first one happened to me. I used to be in charge of cleaning the gymnasium at night. Every student had a job that they had to do either at night or in the morning to help take care of the school. It taught you some practical things and all. Anyway, I was there by myself that night getting ready to start sweeping the gym. The gym had 2 floors to it. The upstairs part was the weightlifting area, and you could see it fully from the bottom part of the gym where the basketball court was. As I stepped into the gym, one of the basketballs starts rolling a bit. I look around to see if any doors are open. None are. I chalk it up to randomness, but see that it is continuing to roll. As I watch it, it makes a full circle around the entire gym and stops right next to my feet. At this point, I'm a bit scared, but figured it was nothing. I heard a creaking coming from the 2nd floor and look up. There is a girl there, just staring right at me. As soon as I made direct eye contact with her, she bolts to the stairs that would take her to me. She let out a scream that I cannot describe. I was terrified and froze in place. Thankfully, she didn't come to me, but took a left and bolted through the main doors of the gym. They didn't open, she just went right through them. I noped the hell out of there. A girl in white has a song in her heart. There was a chapel that was in the middle of the school. This is a non-religious school, so we used it for musical performances and all that sort of stuff. I was in choir for the years that I was there, so I was very used to performing in it. There was stained glass on all of the windows and such. Every time you walked in there, it always felt as if someone was watching you. It wasn't only me, but there were multiple people who felt that way. There was a big grand piano that was on the opposite side of where you walked in. That was our stage. People would go in there at night and practice on it or just play for fun. Most people would just go in there and only turn on the stage lights and leave the rest off while they were practicing. This story isn't something that I witnessed, but a friend of mine, she was playing on the piano by herself and just having fun practicing. While in the middle of a song, the keys next to her start going up and down as if trying to add another part to her song. She jokingly said, "Hey, stop. That doesn't go with what I am doing." She immediately felt as if someone had boxed her ears, and she became really dizzy. She freaked out and bolted out of there. She came crying down to the area where all of the students hung out on their free time. She told me and a few friends the story. It took quite a while to get her to calm down. Many people have seen a girl in a white dress constantly roaming that area. A noisy ghost disrupts the library at night. My school's library is open until around 2 in the morning for the idiots like me who don't do their essays until the last minute. It's a pretty small building, and most of the books are in the basement area called the stacks. Just to give you a quick layout, there's the big main stairs that go down to the stacks, a vending machine room, and the long hallway with 4 entrances into the stacks. The stacks are 2 really big rooms on opposite sides of the hallway with a huge amount of bookshelves and study desks lining the walls. I was there around 11 p.m. last year. It was a pretty research-intensive essay, so I was down in the stacks working in one of the study desks. so I didn't have to keep going upstairs and downstairs again. I had been there for maybe 2 hours, and everyone except for a boy working a few desks down from me had left already. I was pretty zoned out by this point. It was an 8 a.m. class, so I didn't have much time until it was due, and I was sort of panicking. So it really pissed me off when I heard someone flipping through book pages really fast to make them do that loud whir noise at the other end of the room. I sort of ignored it for a while thinking they'd go away eventually, but they just kept doing it. After about 5 minutes, I got sick of it and started to walk over to tell them to knock it off. I get about 3 steps across the room, and it just stopped. I sat back down, and it was quiet again for like 10 more minutes before the flipping pages noise started again, only loads louder, like they'd grabbed a huge book that time. The boy started to get pissed off too, and he stood up and started walking through the bookshelves trying to find them. It keeps going, so I got up too and started looking around with him. It got really loud, and it was pretty obvious where it was coming from by that point, so we started walking towards it. He was on one side of the shelves, and I was on the other. We walked all the way down the shelves. No one there. We hadn't seen anyone come in the stacks, and we were on the side of the room with the entrances. No way could anyone have come in without us seeing them. The noise stopped again, and we both just sort of slowly walked back to our seats. I assumed it was just a fan or something in the other room, and I really needed to get my essay done. We sat down and immediately the noise started again. It sounded like it was coming from right next to the guy's chair. He shoved his stuff in his bag, looked at me, said, "FCK this," and took off. I was out of there maybe 5 seconds behind him. I still won't go back in the stacks at night, even when there's other people down there. No essays worth getting murdered by a weird book ghost.